And welcome to the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It is Thursday, the 13th of August, 2020. Those claps still get me every time. It throws me off. I want to make that go away. That ain't going to happen no more. Good morning. How are you doing? I am the amazing Super Chris. I am your host. It's Thursday, so I've got my regular Thursday co-host, Christian Watkins is joining me this morning. We've also got Miss Cynthia McDonald, my Friday co-host, has joined us. And here in just a minute, we're going to be talking about some voting, really touchy kind of issues after this.
Oh my God. Jesus. Do you like it?
Sometimes you can choose to not be a dick. Yes. Thank you.
I can't take it off. I can't take it off. Take it off. I can't. Take it off. I can't take it off. Take it off. I can't.
That's awesome. I love Miss Lola Ray. Good morning, Christian. How you doing today?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me on. I mean, I come on Thursdays usually, but thanks again. I always appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me. Have you had a good week so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty solid. I had Neil in the beginning of the week, so it's been a good week.
Neil's, he's awesome. And this morning we've got, like I mentioned before, we've got normally my Friday co-host, Miss Cynthia McDonald has joined us. Good morning, Miss Cynthia. How are you doing?
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Christian. How is everyone?
So far, so good. Are you having a good week?
It's a busy week, but it's not a bad week.
Gotcha. Well, I'm kind of looking forward to tomorrow's show. We're going to be talking about how Christianity has helped to oppress the people of color since slavery and all of those things. That's kind of the topic we're going to be getting on, I believe, tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But today we're going to be talking. Wait! Before I do the whole thing, I gotta. Don't let me forget. I want to say hello to all the people in Damnation, the chat this morning. Today is Thursday. It is Thursday. I see your confusion, Mr. Tons of Mice. There's going to be a little bit of a debate going on in just a minute. So you'll see. It's going to be cool. Good morning, Oz, Cindy Plaza. Good morning, Cindy. The Rage is here. Good morning. See, the Rage has got an opinion on lots of people are going to have an opinion on this. Derek Cruz, good morning. Old Man Dan is here, Native Atheist. Good morning, everybody. It's wonderful having you here. Good morning, all the people who are hopefully watching on Facebook. I tried to open it on Facebook. Of course, I'm running the show, right? If it don't work, I can't really stop and figure out why, but I couldn't see it happening on Facebook. Hopefully they're there. They're able to watch on Facebook. YouTube reviewer who goes back every day, good morning to you. And to the people in my podcast who listen on the Daily Atheist Morning Show podcast, good morning to you. Okay, everybody. Hi, guys. So maybe I'll let Christian go ahead and introduce the situation, and then you guys can talk about it. And I'll sit over here and I'm going to drink coffee and shut up. I'll give my opinion, maybe, if I'm nice. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, everyone who's watching. It's a pretty simple dilemma today with a lot of implications across the country. So I think that we should, cut our losses and vote for Joe Biden, despite his annoyingness and despite him being, not the perfect choice and not the choice that I wanted. I think we should swallow our pride and vote for Joe Biden in an attempt to remove Donald Trump. Cynthia, I don't want to speak for her, but my assumption is that she's not in favor of that strategy and prefers a different strategy for bringing change to the country. So we're going to discuss which one of our strategies is most effective and go back and forth for a little bit. So.
Awesome. All right, Miss Cynthia, do you kind of want to give us an idea of where you stand on this and before we go too far into it?
Yeah, just 1 second. Let me look at you.
Okay.
Let me look at you. Okay, there you are.
Here I am.
So basically, where I stand with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is that I don't stand with them at all. Both of them are highly problematic candidates as far as doing this Democratic ticket for the fall of 2020. They both have long, extensive records actually advocating for policies that have been very detrimental to Black communities. And if the and also too, this particular ticket is more so a push of pandering and playing identity politics for the outlier group when it comes to voting. instead of actually advocating for real policies and change in Black communities that they acknowledge that needs to happen. And for that, because of all of these particular things, I am not going to give my vote to Biden or Kamala Harris in the fall.
I understand that. If you don't mind, I just kind of want to throw my 2 cents in there. I'm one of those who's I'm not a fan of Joe Biden myself. I don't know a lot about. I was a fan of Joe Biden. I liked him. I'm not really against him. It's just that he's kind of, I don't know. He's more of an old guard Republican than he is a Democrat, or even more of what we would think of a progressive. But he's what we got. Now, things have gotten, I would have to say that Obama wasn't really a progressive liberal either. He was more like a Democrat or a closer to an old guard Republican, what I think of that. But, of course he wasn't, I don't think he was bad in those respects. But now we can look at how things were during the Obama administration. And we had some issues. We had some hate in the streets when Obama became president. We had the right wingers hanging his effigy and burning it and stuff like that. You guys remember that. But other than that, it wasn't that bad. They had little things here and there. It was nothing like what has happened under the reign of Donald Trump over these past few years. They've completely shat on our Constitution. They're tearing apart our country. They're removing all the protections that restrain them from turning this into an authoritarian regime. And that's what's been happening. And the only thing that stands between that and us, what we have now, is possibly Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Possibly. There's no other option that will stop that from happening. None. There are zero options besides that. Am I wrong? Bernie's not going to come out of nowhere. Elizabeth Warren isn't going to come out of nowhere and save the day. There's not going to be any kind of hero that comes to save the day, anything like that. I have to say, though, that I'm not really a Kamala Harris. I don't really know how to say her name. I'm not saying it wrong on purpose. Kamala, is that right?
Kamala, yeah.
Kamala, okay, Kamala Harris. I'm not really a fan of hers, but I don't know that much about her. I know she's not been really a help to the Black community, like you say. I'm aware of that. I've seen some of the scuttlebutt going on, but I have to say, of all the people that's going into these upcoming debates for the presidency, I would give her the credit of being the absolute sharpest and the one with the ability to trash any of the rest of them, including Biden, as far as being up here, on point. I would just have to give her that credit. So, okay, those are my thoughts on the situation. It's fascist Trump regime. It gets worse from here. You guys, people didn't listen to me when I said XYZ was going to happen, and actually worse than XYZ has happened. And people are like, "There's no way this is going to happen," and and now people. I talk to people who are conservatives, and I'm like, "You should automatically be against fascism." They're like, "Well, I really need to look up what a fascist is. What does that mean exactly?" I'm like, that's not a knee-jerk reaction. When you look it up, it's an almost exact opposite from the democracy that we have. And you can't be for both, and they seem to be they want to turn it to that. How can you love America and love our democracy and root for a fascist regime? And that doesn't work. So anyway, my 2 cents. Shutting up now. I know people were picking on me in the chat saying, "You ain't gonna shut up." I'm shutting up. Anyway. All right, guys. What are your thoughts, Christian? Start with you.
Well, it's not like I don't respect Cynthia's position. I think that I think that it makes a lot of sense. And if you would have asked me a year or two ago what my position would be, it would be very similar and echoing a lot of the points that Cynthia is making. The point is, I don't disagree with your analysis of the terribleness of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I don't actually disagree. What I do think is that, mathematically speaking, there's two people who could win the presidency. Either Joe Biden will take office in November, or Donald Trump will take office in November. And either you're working actively to remove Trump, or you're working actively to get Trump reelected. To me, those are the only two options. And you could phrase that differently, saying you're working actively to get Joe Biden elected. You could flip that on its head, but I just prefer looking at it that way. I prefer to work actively to get Trump out, as opposed to working actively to get Trump in. And I think that by not voting for Joe Biden, like it or not, it becomes a benefit to Donald Trump. And if you're okay with that, then I have no bones with that. If that's what you're okay with, if you're more of a let's take the system down to its worst possible points so that it has to rebuild in a more progressive light. That's not a terrible theory. I just don't subscribe to it. I don't think it's going to work. And that's why I'm trying to stop the storm before it happens, because I understand that there's serious issues with waiting for the system to crumble and then rebuilding it back up in your own image. People are going to die doing that, and I can't have that on my conscience.
Okay. And I think that if we ended up having like somebody else possibly for this particular ticket, I probably would just hold my nose and just vote for them, even though, to be honest with you, any of the candidates that was actually running for 2020, I didn't lean to. I think there was only two that I was kind of looking at. One was Marianne Williamson, but not too tough, and then Tom Steyer. But all the rest of them, no. But the thing about it is, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not allowing myself to do that at all. And it's a good section of especially Black folk who is very much so privy to both of their records is not doing it either. We have a tendency since I would say 1964 to actually vote Democratic ever since we got the Civil Rights Act in 1964, 65, and 68. And for all those particular time periods, we've constantly been voting for Democratic people to run and to get into office, and never got any real proper policy out of it. And this particular ticket is only just a cry from some gatekeepers that actually say you have to have a Black woman to be vice president. Never asking for any type of policy, any type of exchange, any type of anything like that. And knowing even when Kamala was running for president and she was interviewed by the Griot, she sat up there and basically said, so I'm not just going to sit here and just say I'm going to do anything just for Black people. No. And she was very smug about it. And we was like, oh, okay, sis, if that's how you feel, guess what? We're not voting for you. And she was burning during the primaries. Now, and one of the things that happens to happen oftentimes is that, we got identity politics instead of proper representation with policy. And I understand how people will say, well, if you're not voting for Biden, then you're basically pushing Trump. And I say, yeah, you can say that. I'm not. I believe he's horrible. But at the same time, it's going to be where how long as in our communities are we going to hold our nose just so that we can, help rescue the Union? And I would argue to say that we've been rescuing the Union since 1776. And, just not for being the conscience of the United States any longer.
Would you argue that the party that's in power now and the party that's continuing that fascist regime that I was predicting was coming, I believe, I almost have no doubt that given the opportunity, those same group of people, if they had the power, they would return, I'm going to speak this, please forgive me for the phrasing, they would return your people to the enslavement they came from. I have no doubt that if Trump and them had the full powers and the people that are gone, and if it keeps going, I have no doubt that they would return to that type of situation and continue to oppress or make the oppression even worse as far as they possibly could. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel that if Trump and the slope they're going down, do you think they would ever try to remove some of the freedoms that your people say, no, he's not going to do X, Y, and Z, and yet he turns around and does stuff and you're surprised that he did it, so what do you think about that? Do you think that's possible? Likely?
I mean, to be honest, I would really have to see more, empirical data to actually support that. I'm not privy to that. But one of the things that I feel is a better thing to do is that I'm more so thinking about the structure of government versus, any one power being in one office. We have about a third of the Congress that's up for re-election in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And we can even look at instances in history where Congress was the deciding factor on what legislation went forward, not the president. And oftentimes, if you have proper representation in Congress, that would be the Senate and also in the House of Representatives, oftentimes certain initiatives that the president wants done, or even if they veto something, Congress can override that. And also, too, a lot of people were talking about the recent executive orders that Donald Trump actually signed, one of them being to extend unemployment benefits to $400 a week for people who are on it who have been approved. But the thing about it, even with that particular order, it's a nothing burger if Congress does not fund it because they have the power of the purse. So I am more of a mind to focus on making sure that the Congress is stacked enough in order to make sure that there's certain things that, would prevent, Donald from going apeshit versus just, okay, we're just going to put all of our eggs in one basket when it comes to the executive branch.
Well, so I have two things, right? The first thing is is a question, right? Would it be easier for progressive candidates to win if Trump is president or if Biden is president? Which one would make it easier for progressive candidates to run on the congressional level?
Well, the thing about that is that it could be either, it can go either way. And I'll give you an example. In 2009, when President Obama got into office, he had a Democratic Senate and a Democratic House of Representatives. He spent the majority of his political capital trying to get the ACA passed. So a lot of people still didn't really jive.
But that was only like the first 6 months, right? Only like the first 6 months.
Yeah, but what I was saying is that even though he was in office at that particular time, 2 years later, the Congress flipped to Republican while he was in office, and then from then on, we saw a lot of, course, stalemating going on when he was in office. Even though and when he first got there, he had, both a Democratic, he had a Democratic Congress. So to be honest, it really just depends on the area and what people vote in or not. One of the things is that in local elections, they're not bound by an electoral college. The only thing that's bound by that is just the presidency. So I would put the onus mostly on the people when they are voting for their particular electorate. They are the electorate, when they're voting for their representatives to go into office. You know what? To be honest with you, if we had more of this particular scenario when it comes to Congress, the two people who I would say would be a better focus to really get rid of is Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell.
Hell yeah. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
That's fine. I don't think we should paint this as there's better things to do, because you can get rid of Moscow Mitch, and you can get rid of all these terrible corporatist Republicans and Democrats for that matter. Get rid of all the people who are taking, a bunch of lobbying money. Get rid of all of those pieces of garbage and still vote for Joe Biden, because you understand that Trump is the worse on those particular issues. You don't even have to. The way that you vote for, if I didn't vote for every president that didn't align with my views to a degree that was sufficient to me, I wouldn't be able to vote for anybody, because I'm literally crazy on my political views. I'm at the point where I'm so far left that that any candidate in America is going to seem like an absolute radical crazy person, right? So I'm voting for Joe Biden not because I'm just so excited to get another 75-year-old white guy in there. It doesn't just enamor me so greatly. What I'm saying is that realistically, it's Trump or Biden, and you can either support one or the other, and it's fine if you want to support neither. but supporting neither benefits the incumbency. All the data shows that. And if you're okay with benefiting the incumbency, and like Chris makes the case for the fascist regime, I mean, you could go there. You could go for the Supreme Court access, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's replacement. You could go for all sorts of political tactical reasons. But all those reasons are subject to an individual caring about those reasons. I think one thing we can agree on is that Donald Trump is a bad president. You know, existential danger or not, he's a bad president.
Right. Well,
and I would argue that he's worse than anything Joe Biden could muster up in 4 years.
Well, we have a question here from the chat. Miss Cynthia or Cindy PLAZA asks, so how is voting blank for the presidency going to change anything regarding Congress? And I think if I might speak up, it's actually less about helping Congress and more about spiting Biden. Right now, your position is it's essentially to spite Biden and Kamala Harris no matter what.
Yeah, I'm more concentrating on voting in local elections, you know, and really focusing on that particular aspect.
Which that's good too. Very important.
Yeah, it is extremely important. But, you know, it's kind of like how, I don't know if you guys are familiar with I believe, author Eddie Glaub. He sometimes is a contributor on MSNBC. And he's been actually advocating for down ballots for like the past, ever since the first time I heard about him talk about it in 2016 during the presidential election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And this is more of a tactic to say that we're just not a captured vote. Because and also too, you still have even other Black punditry that I listen to that is just more so on the same type of wavelength when it comes to identity politics, and just basically just acquiescing to, yeah, Black people, our vote is stamped already, so fuck y'all. You know, sorry, drop the F-bomb. But the thing about it is that this is the constant thinking pattern and behavior pattern that we are seeing when we are looking at the Democratic candidates. And it's kind of like, you know, how long should us as a people just hold our nose to make sure that we are just not getting the worst of the worst when it comes to the presidency. And another thing is that like as I mentioned previously, with Biden and Kamala, their records have been absolutely atrocious when it came to policy advocacy. You know, Joe Biden being in office for over 40 years has flip-flopped on a lot of policies, worked with racist senators in order to push policies, knew and even when the 1994 crime bill was actually up for vote, did a very big grandstanding on why he feels that this thing should happen, got buy-in from the CDC and even Black mayors, and also made certain promises that they were going to happen if you vote for this particular bill or support for this particular bill. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, because I love what you're saying. All I'm saying is that you shouldn't be making a case for why Joe Biden is bad. You should be making a case for why Trump is No. I don't have to do that because here's the thing. I don't have to necessarily make the case of why Trump is better, because I can't, and I don't believe that he is. It's just that the thing about it is that the only thing that I would argue is that Biden and Kamala have a combination of about 55 years of bad policy towards Black people, and if they have and I'm not so convinced that once they get back into office, especially on this higher level, that all of a sudden that's going to change to the point where we're going to have a better playing field when it comes to certain policies that we desperately need as a group. You know, and that's more so where my mind is versus saying how Trump would be better for Black folk. I don't necessarily think he'll be better for Black people. I really don't. So what I'm saying is that your line of argumentation, it works in a primary, right? In a primary, you can say Joe Biden's record is so terrible that let's focus on someone more progressive with less of a terrible record. Let's get them on the ballot in November. That argument stops working when it's either Trump or Biden and no one else has a probability of winning at all. Like it's exactly zero that anyone else will win this election. So even if you wanted to say that Joe Biden is horrible, that shouldn't be the case that you're making, because if you're going to vote for anyone besides Joe Biden, you have to make a case as to why letting Trump win is better than Joe Biden winning. I'm okay with that case being made, and you can make a case from the left that, you know, it's basically like acceleration theory. The more bad that's done in the status quo, the easier it is to rebuild in a way in the future. It's not a wrong theory. It's just a different argument than the one that you're making, because we cannot just say that Joe Biden's record is bad and Trump's record is bad, therefore I'm not participating, or I'm going to vote down ballot on other local elections. That doesn't really answer the question. The question is, who's better, Trump or Biden? You say it's Biden. I think you would agree that Biden's better than Trump. Maybe you don't, but if you think Biden's better than Trump, then you know, at that point it's either make a case for why Trump should win the election or vote for Joe Biden.
Well, see, the thing about it is that, you know, I feel that you're kind of like trying to push me more so into making a case of why Trump would be better to stay in office, and that's why, you know, we should vote this particular way versus Biden. And I'm not doing either of that, because like my reasons for voting down ballot really have nothing to do with why I feel that Trump is better or why I feel Biden is better. Because like I would agree with any person, especially when they're making a case of why Trump is bad, because I agree with that. But the thing about it is that I'm more so of the mind, and a lot of people are more so of the mind, it's not being a capture vote any longer. Because if we're continuously voting the way that we're stamped as voting, we're going to keep on getting the same type of, you know, piecemeal policies that don't work for our group. And that's why I'm voting down ballot. It has nothing to do with if Biden is better or if Trump is better. You know, and like continue.
By the way, I actually do disagree that Black individuals are voting for Democrats because they're mindlessly picking it.
No, I don't necessarily. I didn't say that. What I'm saying is that data shows that we have been voting. We're one of the most loyal voting bloc for the Democratic Party since the mid to late 60s. Matter of fact, Black folk voted for the Blue Party at a 90% rate. That's more than anybody. But the problem is that we've never received any real transformative legislation since the 60s.
Well, yeah, let me ask, why didn't they turn out for Bernie then? Whenever it was Bernie against Biden and Bernie was the only choice, why didn't the Black vote turn out for Bernie? How did Biden win that? And why aren't you showing up for Biden now?
Two reasons. The reason why the Black vote did not turn out for Bernie the way that I think that he hoped for is because Bernie was more of a mind to push class-based policies, thinking that that's going to fix race. Yeah, they're to fix race, and that's not gonna cut it. And also too, you still had a lot of Black people, especially like in South Carolina and some of these other primaries that are looking more so at Joe Biden as that's Obama's VP versus what about his record. So that was more so why he ended up getting, you know, a big vote, the voting bloc that basically saved his particular his candidacy, because when he first entered in, he was not doing well at all.
I wanna try to, because, you know, I'll be honest, I can't go toe to toe with Cynthia on the history. I don't know it that well, and if I did, I'm sure that I would get publicly blown out of the water. So I'm not even going to try that with Cynthia. But what I will try is this, which is a thought experiment. On day one of the presidency, after November happens and after a president is picked, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, whoever's sitting in that chair, let's say it's Joe Biden or Trump, which person sitting in that chair is better for the Black community?
Oh, neither. And
but
also,
that wasn't the question.
No, I know, but I don't think that's necessarily the answer you were looking for. But you were asking me who was better, and I told you neither. They're not.
If I say who's better and you say neither, that's an answer to the question of, are any of them better? I didn't ask if anyone is better, because then you could say neither. I said, which one is better? If you're going to say that they're exactly equal,
Mm-hmm.
is that the case?
So you're referring to, so you're talking about the binary choice of who's better for the Black community when it comes to the presidency, Joe Biden or Donald
the two
Trump?
people who are running, yeah.
Right, and and my answer is neither of them are. And
I don't think that my question is I'm not saying are either of them really good for the Black community. I'm saying which one of their policies would do better than the other. I'm asking to make a comparison between the two, not between them and a perfect standard or them and a better standard.
Yeah, no, and I understand what your question is, and my answer still is going to be neither.
If we can move away from Christian trying to force you to say Trump is worse, can we move away from that for just a moment? I mean, sure. It's going on for a bit now. There's something going on we've got going on in our community, in our liberal community. One of the second video I made on my channel is me complaining to the liberals about not being able to get our shit together. One of the things that the conservatives are able to do is get their shit together and get behind somebody. No matter how horrible they seem to be, they can get their shit together and get behind them. Us on the left, we're like, oh my goodness, that guy like turned left on Tuesdays and I don't like him. Or this person over here, he's too tall, I don't like him. Or this person over here, that they don't just fit my perfect picture, so we'll let those tyrants do whatever the hell they want because we can't pick the one we've got going over here. That's fine. I get that. I didn't get my Bernie, right? So I'm getting my face shoved in the pile of Biden. You know, that's what's happening. And I don't really like it. I get tired of hearing people go, it's your fault for voting for, well, you know what? I did my duty. I voted for Sanders in the primaries of 2016 because that's who I wanted to be my representative on the left, because that's the only choice we had. And then Hillary, this is how I believe Hillary and the DNC stole the primary from Bernie. I knew that. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew that. It was still them or Trump. And you know what happened? I voted for who? Did I not vote? No, I voted for Hillary. I'm not really a big Hillary fan, but I voted for her because that was my choice. It was her or Trump, and my voice wanted to go for her. Now I don't regret that. I feel I have the right to complain. Now here we are. I bought that right by voting, by the way. So then now here we are, ready to do this again. I'm getting, once again, I feel Bernie was robbed. I feel that Biden and the other more conservative liberals in the Democratic Party, whenever they couldn't beat Bernie, they started shedding their stuff and putting it all to Biden. We saw it happen. Biden was nothing until after all the rest of them started getting their asses kicked out and they started funneling their shit to Biden. And then, you know, of course, we know how it went from there. They just shat all over Bernie. Am I going to vote for Biden this time? Now, let's see. All right, so I used to have an aunt. I love my Aunt Nana. She was wonderful. And her I want to say boyfriend, Ollie. One of the few things that kept them going was Meals on Wheels. She was an old nurse. She'd been a nurse back in the day, and she was hobbled up and couldn't do anything. Meals on Wheels. What was one of the first things Donald Trump's regime did when they got into office? They went after Meals on Wheels. Would Hillary Clinton have done that? Who was better for the poor community, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? Now, I don't really like Donald Trump. I don't particularly care for Hillary Clinton. But I have to say, the one who's going to do the first thing that son of a bitch did was go after Meals on Wheels. You know what? Clearly, we have the money for that. We get a little virus going around and it's threatening business, and they drop trillions of dollars into our economy. They could have afforded Meals on Wheels. They could have afforded to feed the poorest and the worst off people in our communities. They could have helped, and they still could. And the ones that are most likely to do that are the ones on the left. We wouldn't have social programs without liberals. Some of them shitty, yes, but all those social programs we got without liberals, they would be removed given the opportunity by the conservatives. Right now, Trump is after socialism. Or not socialism. Well, yeah, I guess so. He's after Social Security and Medicare. Is he not? Would Hillary Clinton be doing that right now? So I can shit on my vote all I want to, but really it's like, you know, one really is legitimately far, far worse than the other. I'm just saying. I have to agree with Miss Cynthia that Joe Biden, and I don't know about Miss Kamala Harris. I don't know her record so much. All I know is some of the things I've heard, and I don't really trust him until I look for myself. But I've seen some of his voting record. And I have to say, that man, if nothing else, absolutely owes y'all, all of y'all, an apology for some of the things he did. But I feel that in many of the cases, they were both motivated by the populace of their party that was driving them. The populace of the party that's driving us now is the far left liberal, the black people, the gay people, the uprising that's going on in our communities. And I feel they're going to listen to their voice. I could be wrong.
Well, I would say that if I'm looking at what Joe Biden has displayed in the past, so you remember when HW was in office. Mm-hmm. This is George Senior, people, for the people who are not old enough.
For you younger folks.
Right.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I know you don't. I know
perfect.
you don't.
The Christians
I'm like 12. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. You weren't even 12. I said HW. I'm not even talking about, you weren't even thought of. I'm talking about 1980.
He's thinking the other one.
Yeah, no.
There's another one before that one.
Yeah, I'm talking about H.W. Bush,
That's
not
cute.
George W. But anywho.
Anyway.
In 1989, when George H.W. Bush was running, and the Democratic Party gave like the rebuttal of, like when they're doing like the State of the Union and they're giving the rebuttal speech. And I think who was actually president at the particular time? That was that was H.W. I was thinking about Reagan. But when H.W. Bush was still president, he gave the State of the Union address. Joe Biden was the selected Democrat that actually gave the rebuttal speech. And Biden actually was touted for a very long time, but concerning his record, that he's always been very law and order, tough on crime type person. And he actually, he actually gave the Republicans like the flu fox, saying that they're not tough enough on crime at that particular time. And people always said that even though like he was like Democrat in name only, he's never really pushed like very much so Democratic type policies, social type policies the whole time that he was in office when he was a senator. So he was and he was also very much so known to work with, a lot of the very overtly racist Republicans that was in the Senate at the time, depending on the type of policy that he was trying to push. Strom Thurmond was a very good friend of his. And if you all are not familiar with who Strom Thurmond is, look him up. And I say all that to say is that I wouldn't even argue concerning what Trump has shown and what Biden has shown, especially when Biden actually has been in office, is that his record precedes him as far as like what are the things that he actually values more. And it's very much so conservatism and policies that actually push like a very strict conservative point of view. And I'm talking about Biden. So I'm not very convinced that once he is actually in office, that all of a sudden this is not going to necessarily be the case.
That's what I'm saying. If that's what you believe, then make that case. I'm saying I disagree. I think that Joe Biden would be a fundamentally better president than Donald Trump, and that's enough reason for me to vote for Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm. I made that in a very brief example about the very first thing Donald Trump did when he got in office was start attacking poor people, and he hasn't stopped. He's been shoveling money to the rich hand over fist and starving out poor people. He's going to try to collapse the USPS and try to make it to where people, he's actually fostering this virus so he can shut down the voting. But you know what I mean? That's how I see it. That's my prediction. He's trying to make this virus worse come November so people can't get out and vote. He's going to tear down the USPS before then so they can't vote. That's what we've got now. And it's only going to get worse. It's phenomenally worse whenever they That's just my view. Anyway, so I'm trying to say, I just don't feel that Joe Biden, I know you're seeing Joe Biden as an old guard kind of Republican, more like Ronald Reagan or one of those, worse than Ronald Reagan.
I see him as worse than Ronald Reagan. But
I see the Trump regime is the closest thing to the Nazi party that we've had in our history since the Nazi party, and it's going to get worse. And you're like, well, Biden's mean. He's not voted for us and helped us in the past.
Well, I mean,
yet we've got children in cages by the tens of thousands since Trump.
You know, they also called Obama deportation in chief. You know, when he was in office. You know, and
there's a difference to deporting people and leaving kids in cages and ripping them away from their families.
Well, I don't. Like I said, I necessarily did not agree with that particular policy at all. You know, but as far as I'm concerned, and I have to look this up too, because like I also heard that there were similar policies when it came to those three particular things under Obama as well. But you know, but my whole thing is this. This is my thing as well. Mm-hmm. Just like in 2016, when we all complained about how, you know, the Democrats stole basically the election from Bernie Sanders to Hillary and shifted it to Hillary. And because, you know, she was the favorite of the DNC. And we saw this whole push concerning Joe Biden becoming the nominee, and people were just dropping out like flies during the primaries. It's not like the DNC did not know how problematic Joe Biden was going to be. It's not like that they did not know his record. And it's not like that a lot of people did not speak up while he was running that, you know, he is a problem. But instead of really, you know, saying, you know what, Joe, you know, thank you for your thoughts and letters. You need to get somewhere and sit down so that we can go ahead and push, you know, candidates that's probably going to be a bit better for what we're trying to stand for as far as like our platform is concerned. They didn't do that. And the thing about it is, it's like, if you know how problematic this particular person is, if you had your constituency actually speak up and say, this is a problem, why are you allowing this person to even run for the seat in the first place? Because you all could have came in just like Hillary's friend did. I forgot, she was a congresswoman at the particular time, to say, okay, this is the particular person that we're going to shift to. You could have really intervened to make sure that the ship was on a better candidate for that particular office versus Biden. And that's exactly what you did not do. And now you are here. Well, now we're here. And you're giving and you're forcing us to put us in this particular boat where we either have to suffer continuously under Trump or hold our nose and then, you know, and vote for Biden.
The better candidate.
To you. But I mean, like, I'm not willing to do that. I'm so not willing to do that. And because of all the different things that I stated before, that we all agree, yes, Biden is a bad candidate for these particular reasons. And I'm going completely by his record. I'm going by completely by the things that he said. I'm going by completely for the things that he has advocated for. And
I think the problem is that you're holding Biden to a standard that isn't being equally applied to Trump. All of the policy things you have on Biden, I agree with. I mean, there isn't a whole lot of disagreement there, Cynthia, with you and I. I think that we could sit here and have a Biden shitting party for the next 25 minutes and really enjoy ourselves talking about how terrible Joe Biden is.
Me too.
Sure.
The point is though, and I know I keep bringing this up, and it sounds repetitive, it sounds pedantic, but it really is what I care about here, which is either Joe Biden wins or Donald Trump wins. I want to see Joe Biden over Trump, and to me, it's that simple. I get that there's externalities. I understand that. But when I'm thinking of voting for a presidency, and I understand we live in a two-party system, sadly, right? Either it's Trump or it's Biden. And I think that Biden's a better candidate than Trump is. And I'm willing to vote for that because of, you know, lesser of two evils, whatever the heck you want to call it, right? That's what I'm doing. And I respect your argument, and I respect that you're trying to prevent being a participant in a system that's been systematically terrible. And I totally get that. But at this point, I'm thinking either it's going to be Joe Biden or President Trump for a second term. And I don't think that I can justify that argument in light of Trump's record And it seems like all of the conversation that we're having is about Joe Biden's record, when really the incumbent's record should also be on the table just as much as the challenger.
And I would just basically say to that is, and I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I feel like that, you know, it's going to be a stalemate, because I can't completely just acquiesce to, okay, so I'm going to hold Joe Biden to a standard that I'm not holding Donald Trump to. And the thing about it is that I'm not supporting either of them. I'm just mostly saying is that I'm not going to participate in the presidency when it comes to election, only because both of these particular candidates are really bad. And more than likely, if you have more people that thinks like me, more than likely, yeah, Trump will probably most likely win. But at the same time, I also feel that this would be definitely also a message to the DNC to say, like, listen, if you all really wanted the White House, we told you what to do. And either in this particular time period that we can basically just like kind of just like rebuild and really focus on, like, you know, being more so policy driven to what really works and what we're really advocating for, and making sure that the candidate that you're putting up next time will be doing these things versus just putting this particular old guard up. Maybe you'll learn your lesson. I don't know. I have more of a hope that that's probably going to be the case. It may and may not be.
I just worry that there's going to be nothing to rebuild when Trump gets 4 more years.
And that's a possibility too. Because either it's going to be alarming. Yeah, I mean,
but as long as Biden gets the message that fuck Biden, as long as he gets that message, doesn't message how much we're going to suffer, how much we're all going to suffer, as long as Biden and Kamala get the finger.
I don't necessarily feel that it's going to be to the point where the whole country is just going to go under. I really don't. I mean, like, you know, there's definitely going to be a consequence if we do get another 4 years of Trump. There's going to be a consequence if you get 4 years of Biden. You know. But my whole thing is that I'm more so in the looking of, if we are just allowing the checks and balances of government to be to the point where it actually can stop or mitigate a lot of issues that could happen with a fascist regime. I'm more so leaning onto that particular process, and also hoping that Democrats actually will learn their particular lesson.
You're describing to me that you dislike the orientation of systems of government in America, and then also relying on them to keep Trump in check. It seems to me like
that's the only thing that's actually kept Trump from going off the rails.
Trump has been gutting things since he got in office. They tried to impeach him. How many witnesses did him and the conservative people allow through? They absolutely shat all over our entire process. It's just going to get worse. If Trump steals this, and you have the right to interrupt me if you want to, as per our agreement before. if Trump steals this election,
if he gets your thought out, go ahead.
Okay, if he steals this election and the Congress goes, oh, we need to appoint somebody to investigate this, Trump will then somehow squash that or replace the person appointed. They'll be able to do it. They've done it this whole way, and our Congress is our country, our nation is being destroyed. I don't know if you guys, I would think you of all people would know this has happened, and it almost seems like you're rooting for it, like you're wanting it to burn down, no matter who gets hurt, no matter how many people. And you know, I want to give a final thought, and then I'm going to just mute myself and shut up.
I know, because I got a hard stop in 10 minutes.
We'll see if it works this time.
Yeah. There are so many women out there fought so hard for the right to vote, and so many colored people fought for the right to vote for generations. And to see somebody throw that right away out of spite, it's more to hurt Biden. We've talked about this whole time. It's about hurting Biden than it is helping anybody. And here I'll even add this one last thing here from Brainbug mentioned. It's not just about Biden. It's about the cabinet he brings. It's about the Supreme Court appointment. It's the president. I mean, there's a lot. It's not just Biden. There's a lot of people who are going to get hurt. What if we lose anybody off of the Supreme Court? Who gets to appoint them?
So,
and what are we going to get?
Let's just look at what happened with the Supreme Court. There's a couple of things that I want to go to. Number one, the Supreme Court is already stacked very conservatively right now. So
and it's not going to get better if Trump continues as president.
No, it's not. But the thing about it is that even if Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies and you have another person come in, it's just, we're still leaning toward a very conservative court. And also to a case that I followed, where the Civil Rights Act of 1866 was on trial. And it was the entire Justice Court ruled for a but-for standard when actually interpreting that law instead of a motivating factor. So the but-for standard just means that but for race means that you're not going to do X, Y, and Z versus that race is a motivating factor. So it makes like race, as far as like, you know, saying that you're not going to get certain things done or you're not going to give certain contracts, etc., way more difficult to prove. So I would definitely, well, hold on, let me finish. So I would definitely say that was, and since all 9 justices actually voted for that particular thing, you know, I don't necessarily feel that, you know, even with the justices the way that they are now, they're not necessarily going to be on the side for when it comes to these particular initiatives that we're trying to push. Another thing is that, you know, and I get exactly what you're saying and concerning about the cabinet and the things that he brings and things of that nature. But, you know, again, you know, and I'm saying that I'm not necessarily saying that I'm abdicating my vote. I'm not. I'm actually participating voting. It's just like I said, I'm mostly looking at Congress. I'm mostly looking at in local and state and municipal elections. That's what I'm more focused on, more so than the presidency. And I would even argue concerning like some of the checks and balances that actually has happened, even though like, yes, Trump has been trying to gut certain things as he tried to push a lot of different initiatives, et cetera, but there have been certain portions of our government that actually has kept certain policies for him actually being pushed forth because of lower courts and because of Congress. So, you know, my whole thing is that, again, DNC, if you wanted to make sure that you also won the White House, you should have pushed a better candidate. You gave us this guy, and now you're going to suffer.
Hold on, wait. Okay, I have so many things to say. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's not like Trump is just pushing these initiatives. They've passed. They've already passed. They exist in our system now, and those need reversing. So it's not like Trump is just getting warmed up in those fields. He's done those things already. But even if that wasn't the case, what's worse on the Supreme Court, a 6-3 conservative majority or a 5-4 conservative majority?
It doesn't matter, brother.
It really doesn't. That doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. What matters is hurting Biden, hurting the DNC. I'm just saying. I'm with you, Christian. I'm just saying, in our particular argument, in her case, it doesn't matter. As long as DNC and Joe Biden get the finger, that's all that counts. It doesn't matter how much is burned down, how much is burned down, how much is going to be burned. It's less about the future than it is about the past.
No, not necessarily. And like I said, you know, not necessarily. And the reason being is, like I said, you know, you still have a very conservative court. You still have,
and you wouldn't have if Obama had, if a liberal had been in office and they had elected somebody besides Kavanaugh. What if Obama was sitting there instead of Kavanaugh?
Merrick Garner.
But Merrick
Garner. Remember what happened with him? And that's why, and this is why it's really important to really be focused on Congress. It really, really is. I mean, because even like I said, even if you had,
you could do both.
The way, if you really had the Congress the way that it is, even with Biden, you're still going to have a hell of a lot of hard time getting served past with a very Republican Senate, especially with Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell there. You know, and that's why I'm just, and like I said, if Congress really wanted to make sure that Trump did not do a lot of things that they could do, especially with their better consensus, they wouldn't.
Congress was corrupt. Congress was conservative corrupt over the past few years. We've seen it. And we've known they swim like fish. Anything Trump does, they do. You know, they restrict.
And the person that's leading that charge, that's leading those particular fish that particular way is Mitch McConnell.
But if you wait. If you look at all the harm Mitch McConnell does, and let's set that over here, and then you decide you're going to remember Congress is what's important, so you're going to go vote for the opponent, his opponent. Now you apply the same eye that you seem to apply to every presidential candidate to that opponent. You're not going to vote for them either. You're going to get that vote. That candidate is not perfect for what I feel is moving for my black initiative. Therefore, I'm not going to vote for that candidate. Is that how you're going to apply all of your votes?
The person who's running against Mitch McConnell is a corporatist Democrat. I mean, it's not even a progressive. So
you're going to hold that vote too?
Would you vote for that person?
For when it comes to if you're referring to, I forgot that guy's name, because actually that's running against Mitch McConnell. But
he's some guy. He's like a long, I guess not a long time, but he was a congressional seat kind of corporatist. He takes PAC money. I mean, he's by no means an AOC. Like, he's by no means a real progressive candidate.
AOC.
I mean, you'll see no disagreement from me there. All I'm saying is, like, if we apply the standard of, we have to like reject the Joe Bidens, then Mitch McConnell's never going to lose, because the only people who can challenge him right now are people who are on the Democratic corporatist side. A progressive upstart is not going to beat Mitch. I mean, Mitch has got that seat locked down, independent of that sort of challenger.
Well, I mean, like, when I was looking at the last polling numbers when it came to Mitch McConnell, him and the person that's running against him is not that far away in the polls at all.
And the person who's running against him is the corporatist Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, but he's still very much so in danger of losing his particular seat.
Would you vote for the person against Mitch?
Would you vote for the person against?
For that to get rid of Mitch? Yeah, I would.
Well, why would you do that and not vote to get against Trump? By the way, you can do both, by the way.
Because, and the reason being is because, like I said, Biden's record is way too problematic. And that's why I'm not voting for him. And that's why I would be more inclined to do like a nose holding to make sure that you're stacking Congress more so against the presidency, because I'm not voting for Joe Biden at all.
Would you put Joe Biden in that Senate seat instead of Mitch McConnell?
No, only because because again, I'm way too privy to his record.
I understand the argument. I just disagree. Like and
that's fine.
Okay. That's cool.
That's fine. And I got 2 minutes, y'all.
We gotta go. Can we wrap it up? I'll go ahead. Actually, let's let you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Very passionate. We're always passionate. It was wonderful. Let me just say thank you to Miss Cynthia and thank you to Christian Watkins. Thank you to everybody. Well, let's do Miss Cynthia first. Miss Cynthia, do you have anything going on coming up recently that you're going to be on? Any shows or anything?
Yeah, your show tomorrow morning.
My show tomorrow morning.
Your show tomorrow morning. And I want to kind of highlight a new book that actually came out that people, I think, that would kind of undergird what we're going to be talking about. And the book that just recently came out is called White Too Long, which discusses the church in the statutes of white supremacy in the United States. So it just came out. So some of the points that the author actually brought up, I'm hoping that we can kind of go over tomorrow morning. And of course, we still have the 13% that comes on Monday at 7 p.m. We're hoping for like two guests that we're going to be talking about some initiatives that we're pushing for in Illinois, dealing with local politics. So I haven't confirmed them yet, but regardless, I'm going to talk about it anyway, even if they come on or not. And that will be on YFNA News. And I will be publishing a new blog story this weekend discussing looking at violence as a public health crisis and like some of the initiatives that are trying to be pushed in that particular regard as well. So that will be out on my blog on ADOS and healthandwellness.com.
Awesome. If you need to bounce real quick, I can go ahead and let you go and then I can finish up with him.
Yes. And Christian, thank you. Thank you for having this conversation debation.
Of course, Cynthia. Always love talking to you.
Thank you. Fun.
Have a good morning.
All right, Christian. So thank you very much for that. A lot of fun. Do you have anything going on coming up? I mean, if you have time, you're willing to regale us with what you've got going on. I know you're busy.
Oh yeah, Empathetic Atheist show tonight with Justin. this Friday, I'll be uploading my interview with V. LaBianca. Then the following Monday will be my interview with Eric Murphy. And then not a whole lot otherwise that I have scheduled besides, this show next week, the same time. But I would just make a separate plea. You can check my stuff. You can just look me up. But my plea is to vote for Joe Biden. And I understand that it's messy and politics are hard and there's a lot of things that are happening that are complicated and they have implications beyond our own scope and beyond our own control. But to me, the worst thing you can do is burn it all down to build it back up, because the problem with burning it all down is that people die in the fire. And I can't have it on my conscience to do those sorts of things. And I would just implore you to consider Biden, even consider Trump. As much as we don't like him, consider both candidates and then make the best decision on which one you think is better for the country. And I made that decision. And could I be wrong? Sure. But I'm gonna stick to my guns and stick to what I think is the reality of the situation. And disagree or agree, I think that I presented a fair way of looking at the dichotomy.
Well, all right. Here's my deal. I want to say this. I got a couple of points to make. One is I disagree with Miss Cynthia because hers seems to be spite motivated. She's willing to let everybody suffer just to give the finger to Biden, and I don't think that's a very good use of her vote. Who cares what I think, right? That's just my opinion. She's awesome. She can do whatever she wants to. And we, even though we don't agree on that, we agree on many, many things. So hopefully her down ballot vote will help us, even if it doesn't help us there. But here's the other thing I kind of want to mention is, because there are those people who feel that way about her. We like her. We have to set them aside and let them do what they think. Or we can try to rub their noses in it and shove their noses in it and force them to it all the way. Just after Bernie left, or Bernie was put out by the shenanigans that went on this year with Biden, I was like, you're going to force me to vote for Biden? You're going to call me a Bernie bro? I already did my duty. I voted for Hillary. Oh, just be nice, dude. Go, come on, Bernie guys. Wrap your arm around me and welcome me into the thing. Bernie's doing it. Bernie's like, vote for Biden. But no, a lot of people, Biden guys, Biden bros, if you will, are fucking douchebags. They're like, hey, you blah, 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 blah. And they're like forcing you. This is the only guy you got. You got to do this or you're shit. You're not a real Democrat. You're not a little. Why not try the whole, instead of, because your approach is kind of really sort of reminiscent of what I felt after the election. It's like, rather than asking and going, hey, listen, we need your help. It's important. Please. Yours is more like condemning them and pushing, and I feel the same way. It's hard not to. I don't know. It's very complicated. But that's how I felt. As I watched you try to argue with her and pin her into corners that didn't really. What's it matter what she said? She's not going to say it. She's not going to admit. It was clear. There's no way she was going to say Trump was worse than Biden. Trump, literally, we've seen all the things Trump did. I give the example of Trump starving out fucking elderly people. Did she care? Did it matter? No, as long as Biden and the DNC get their finger. So why even continue at that point to, I don't know. It just feels like the hard sell, the hard push is not really the way to go. It's a hand. We're on the same team. Let's go together. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass. What are your thoughts on that?
The purpose of those repeated questions was more to illustrate to the audience, as opposed to actually getting an answer. Because, I've talked to Cynthia about this before. I know her position, respect the hell out of it. I think there's a lot of utility in those sorts of positions. I think that she's dead wrong, and we can disagree with each other, but that's fine. I was just trying to illustrate some points to the audience who may actually be impacted by the arguments in this conversation. But
well, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was agreeing with you. Sorry. No.
There's no problem at all. I just that was a strategy that I tried. At the end, what I like to do with politics is everyone is always talking about the complexities. I like doing that too, but sometimes it's important to just reduce it down to a couple things and just discuss those couple things. Because if we talked about everything in history regarding race and Joe Biden's record, we'd never stop talking. The story's too large.
That's true. Well, I still got Joe Biden all over my nose from whenever Bernie was done and they shoved my nose in the jar. I'm not happy about Joe Biden, and I'm not particularly happy about Kamala Harris. I would have preferred. Why didn't he get Elizabeth Warren? Why didn't he get somebody more progressive? Bernie, I mean, he really is one side. It's like, who could have run for the Republican nomination if we wanted the old guard Republicans back? Would have been, what was his name? The rich guy? Damn it. He's still a Republican, but he's like one of the good ones now. We used to think he was a jerk. He ran for election a couple years ago. He's got a weird, damn it, I'll think of his name later. Anyway.
Rand Paul?
No, I can see his face. Tall, white guy, black hair. Anyway, he's a conservative. He's like a Republican conservative. He's not a Tea Party. See, this is the deal. Our current Republican Party has been taken over by the Tea Party. They're like full-blown, all crazy Tea Party nutbags. Right, except for this one guy, Mitch Romney. Thank you, Mitch Romney. Really, we thought was like, oh no, not Mitch Romney. Now I'm like, Mitch Romney is the voice of reason of that party, and him. And if you were to ask me who is more conservative, who more represents the Democratic Liberal Party, I would have a hard time. I'd have a hard time telling between those two because Biden is so conservative. The only reason why he's pro things now like pro college and pro healthcare, if he's pro any of those things, is only because the platform is forcing that on him. So I'm not happy about it. And then to have somebody goad me about it doesn't make me feel any better. You got my vote. Leave me alone about it. But in her case, there's not a lot of reason for those. That's why one of the things as we went on, my hope was that you and I together could continue as we did. I think we did a really good job of painting kind of the horrible picture that the Trump administration / regime has become and the things it's done. We could have done so much better. There were so many things they've done that we could have pointed out that anybody else, like you were saying to the crowd, anybody else watching who might be on the fence going, you know what, I think I'm going to hold my vote too, who doesn't harbor that spite towards Biden and the DNC, maybe we convince them to go ahead and help us with Biden. That's kind of my hope.
I hope so. I mean, just kind of to end the conversation, I would just say, I think we're screwed. Like I'm very much a defeatist in this instance. I think Trump's going to win re-election, and I think that it's going to be because the left is, for better or for worse, the left is incredibly principled. And the left likes to get the candidates they want, and it's because the left wants to see real change, and that's laudable and admirable. But the right coalesces around their candidate. The second that Trump was the nominee for re-election, he was going to get every single Republican's vote, spare a couple. Yeah. And it's just they just coalesce around Trump faster. And fortunately or unfortunately, the left is very much more diverse intellectually. And it's not as easy to get the entirety of the left to support a candidate. And I'm sorry, I hope that Joe Biden wins. I hope that it happens in November. But
I know we could be looking at our first black female president if for anything happens to Joe due to his age or whatever infirmity. She could become a president because that would be fantastic for, I would think, the black community, sort of. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up. We are done for the day. Politics, I don't like politics. Let's not talk about politics. Tomorrow we're going to talk history with Miss Cynthia McDonald. We're going to talk about Christians. We're going to talk about religion tomorrow on the Daily Atheist Morning Show. Not those Christians, the other Christians. We're going to talk about other Christians because tomorrow we're going to talk about how the religion, Christianity, has oppressed people of color for ever since they've been here in our country. They even have a manual instructing them how to use their religion to train black people. Back in slavery days. So there's a lot going on. Anyway, so that should be a fun show. And then this Saturday, guys, is going to be the last Sci-Fi Saturday on the Daily Atheist Morning Show. No more Sci-Fi Saturday on the Daily Atheist Morning Show after this Saturday. No more. Zero. No more. What's going to happen is I'm going to move that over to the other my Sci-Fi review channel. From now on, I'm going to have Sci-Fi Saturday over there. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to check that out. I can't believe I put the wrong freaking link. So I'll try to get a link for the Sci-Fi Saturday channel. So don't forget to go over there. All right. Thank you, Christian, for showing up today. I really appreciate you. We will see you next week. Thank you to everybody in the chat. I appreciate you. The Damnation, the people we've even got people listening over on the live podcast. So thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching the show. A special shout out to my gold level Patreon supporters, the Blazing Wizard Pope, Ian Davenport, Cindy PLAZA, and tons of mice. Thank you, and have a great day.